What's up, everybody? Jeremy Ritz, episode number 40 of the Traders Podcast. Grateful to be with you this week. Thanksgiving is wrapped up last week. It is Christmas time, and my favorite time of the year. I've talked to you about that. I am just elated that we get these next few weeks to spend time with family and friends, to celebrate and culminate everything with that special celebration where we're with all of our family. And, you know, with 3 young children, it's just a phenomenal time of year. So I'm wishing all of you a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and I hope it's a great one. And if you are a Bitcoin holder, it has been a very Merry Christmas for all of you, because recently Bitcoin, BTC, ticker symbol BTC, has hit $100,000, actually above that. I think it actually got up to 104. It has since pulled back slightly. But this concept of a decentralized currency that started back in 2010 and was worth less than a penny is now valued at $100,000. So for any of you out there who were early adopters of Bitcoin, or who have even purchased as recently as a few months ago or this past spring, congratulations to you. And on today's show, I want to spend some time just talking about Bitcoin, the future of Bitcoin, why we're seeing this spike in price. Some of you may have heard of Michael Saylor, who has the company MicroStrategy, what he's doing, why he is a big believer in Bitcoin and probably the biggest proponent of Bitcoin. We're going to get into all of that here today. We're going to also just talk about what's happening in the markets as of today, where we are, what the health of the markets is. And then we'll also take a look at none other than Mr. Roku. So without any hesitation, let's jump into episode number 40 of the Traders Podcast. We are in the month of December. The market has been on a tear this year, and it's been a positive start to this month. And last week I talked about the Santa Claus rally, how those last 5 days of December, those first 2 days of January, if you see the market pumping, that's what's known as the Santa Claus rally. And if you haven't checked out that video, go check it out. Typically when we see that rally occur, that's good news for the following year for the markets. So we're going to be watching that, but it's been a hot start to the markets. And, you know, the data that we've been getting, I'm just scrolling through here. You know, we got manufacturing data this year that came in better than expected. So that's good. Speaking to the health of the economy, the JOLTS job openings were a bit higher than expected. So that's good to see. It's still not great, but definitely if we trending. Look at ISM services data, this is more manufacturing data. That came in a little bit lower than what was forecasted, 52.1 versus 55.5, so a little weaker there. We had Jerome Powell speak on Wednesday, was dovish, spoke about the health of the economy, made some commentary on Bitcoin, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. And then on Thursday, we got initial jobless claims, which came in a little bit higher than what was expected. And then today, as I'm recording this, we got non-farms payrolls, which was slightly higher than what was expected. So that's a positive thing. And if we look at the unemployment rate, that came in on a slight uptick at 4.2 versus 4.1%, but it was in line with what was expected. And then we also got Michigan consumer sentiment today, which was higher than expected, 74 versus a 73. And the Michigan consumer sentiment really just talks, or it reflects how consumers feel about the economy, their own personal economic situation. And so what we have here, when you look at this data in totality, is the economy is showing somewhat, some strength. It's showing some strength. It's not weakening. We're seeing the labor market somewhat imbalanced, but not super strong. And then we're also seeing that the sentiment amongst consumers is somewhat positive. It's somewhat optimistic. And so all those things line up for the Fed to cut rates again this month. We'll find out in 2 weeks whether or not the Fed will cut by another quarter basis point. and everything looks like it from the data that came in this week. Next week, we're going to get our CPI prints. That's our inflation and our PPI. And so really nothing should change. We should get that rate cut. That's what I'm expecting to happen. And one of those things that has been running significantly here in this rally in December has been Bitcoin. And if you take a look right here, we could see that it hit an all-time high, the magic number that everybody's been looking for, and that's that magical $100,000 mark. And it hit around 104,000, the specific numbers right here on the screen. But I just wanted to spend some time talking about Bitcoin for you to consider and make the decision for yourself. Is this something that I should invest in? And really, what separates Bitcoin from other types of investments or assets that can be traded is that it's a digital currency, right? It doesn't have a physical form. It's not paper money. It's not gold. It's not silver. And that's what makes it somewhat unique and a little bit scary, because you're investing in something that really the only record or documentation of it is electronic on what is known as the blockchain. And basically that's just a secure digital ledger where any transaction regarding Bitcoin is stored, right? And so that's one of the things that really makes people believe in Bitcoin, is the fact that it's not controlled by any type of government agency. And when you think of the dollar, the US dollar, at any point in time, more money can be printed. If you go back to the pandemic, there were several stimulus checks that were cut, that were pushed out into the American people, and that money was just printed, right? And what happens when you're printing money like that, it's going to increase inflation. The beautiful thing about Bitcoin is there are only so many in existence, and you can't create more Bitcoin. The number of Bitcoin that exist are the number that exists, and I believe it was 21 million whenever this was when this first came into existence. And I'll fact check that and I'll throw that on the screen. And so when you think about that, there's concerns around the US dollar in terms of inflation, but with Bitcoin, you're not going to have that because there's scarcity involved with it, right? There's not going to be any more Bitcoin created. It is what it is, right? And so that scarcity makes its value something that's very intriguing and something that should, over the long term, increase in value. Now go back to the inception of Bitcoin. It was valued under a penny, right? This was in 2010. So fractions of a penny, to where now it was over $100,000. Right now, when we're talking, it's at 99,000. Wow, what a big change. So you can see just in 14 years, we're in 2024 from 2010, you can see how much that thing increased in value. And so if you just do the math, in 10 years from now, 2034, what's the value of Bitcoin going to be? And if we're just looking at history, if we're looking at the charts here, and here's the chart of Bitcoin from its inception till today, we can pretty confidently and securely forecast that the price is going to go up. Now, how much is it going to go up? We don't know. But what's happening is that you have more people and more institutions who are believing in Bitcoin as a store of value. And what do I mean by that? Well, take a look at the incoming administration, the Trump administration, who will take office in January. They are a pro-cryptocurrency regime. They're the Secretary of Treasury. They're going to have a crypto czar, and really it's going to be a crypto-friendly, Bitcoin-friendly group. And Donald Trump has also spoken about the desire to create a strategic national reserve of Bitcoin in the US, and for the US to be really just a home, a center for Bitcoin. And so as that's happening, you're generating enthusiasm in the markets amongst the American people, amongst businesses, for Bitcoin as a viable asset. Now think about this. This is not just limited to the United States. This is globally, right? So China can purchase Bitcoin, right? The Chinese government. Anybody, any country that you can think of can purchase Bitcoin, and they are purchasing Bitcoin. They're creating reserves of it. And so what do you think is going to happen when these purchases are made? The price is going to go up. And as this grows in, I don't want to say popularity, but as confidence grows in Bitcoin as a true store of value, then what should occur is the price should increase. And what's very interesting is Jerome Powell spoke to the media this week. He did an interview, and he was asked about Bitcoin by Andrew Sorkin from CNBC's Squawk Box. And Jerome Powell talked about how Bitcoin isn't in competition with the US dollar, but its better comp is gold. And that he sees Bitcoin competing with gold as being a store of value. And so for Powell to even say that, that gives credence and credibility to Bitcoin. And it's no surprise that following those comments, we saw that big spike in its value up to $104,000. And so when you look at all these factors together, what does it all mean? Well, you're going to have a administration that's pro-crypto, pro-Bitcoin, wants to create a Bitcoin strategic reserve that is hiring cabinet members who are pro-crypto, pro-Bitcoin. You have companies considering investing in Bitcoin. So next week, there's a big vote that's going to take place by Microsoft shareholders on December 10th as to whether or not they're going to start investing in Bitcoin. And that's going to have a significant impact on the crypto and Bitcoin market, because if Microsoft does decide to invest, it's going to set the stage for other companies to begin doing the same thing. And then if you set off that chain reaction, just imagine the amount of money that will start flowing into Bitcoin and what that increase in value is going to be. The other part of that to consider is if these companies are investing in Bitcoin and Bitcoin increases in its value, and these companies have these investments, the companies themselves are going to increase in value. So there's a reciprocal relationship that's going to occur as these larger companies with tons, billions and billions of dollars on hand in cash. Just think about that there's a compounding effect that's going to take place there, where we can see some of these companies just exploding in value. And so further down the road, what would be a realistic price target on Bitcoin? Where could we see the price going? Well, I'm no Bitcoin expert. I do own Bitcoin. I started buying late. I started buying this spring in April, and I've been buying ever since. And you might be asking, well, how can I buy Bitcoin? An easy way to do it is to set up a Coinbase account. Just get your phone, go to the App Store, download Coinbase. It's free to set up an account. And you don't have to buy an entire coin, right, which is $99,000. You can buy fractional shares. So if you want to set it up where every week I'm buying $5 of Bitcoin, you can do that. And then if you just sit on that for 20, 30 years, you're probably going to be in a good situation, right? Now, investing carries with it its own risks. So you have to do your own research and education on this. But what are some price targets that have been thrown out there in terms of what can happen with Bitcoin's price? And so think about this. When this thing was trading at less than a penny and people were saying it could go up to $100,000, people were saying, you're nuts, you're crazy. But it did just that. One of the biggest proponents, Michael Saylor, who I talked about at the outset of the show, who owns a company called MicroStrategy, where he has a unique thing that he's doing with his company where he's selling shares and then using the proceeds from those shares to buy Bitcoin, which then, again, that reciprocal relationship increases the value of his company, increases the value of Bitcoin. But some of the price targets that he has set for Bitcoin range from $3 million to $13 million. All right, so just marinate on that for a second. $3 million to $13 million, right? It's around $100,000 right now. Just let your brain absorb that price, those prices, and those possibilities, right? Does it mean it's going to go to that level? No. But just looking at the history and how it's moved since its inception till now, 10, 20, 30 years from now, it could happen, right? And so if you have some funds that you can risk losing, take $5 a week, right? If you can't manage to lose $5 a week, then we gotta figure something out. If you're struggling with $20 a month, reach out to me. Let me help you, right? To get $20 a month. But if you're just investing $20 a month over the course of the year, something small, over time, that can provide a significant return for you. And if it's any type of repeat performance like we've seen from less than a penny to $100,000, those returns could be quite significant. So with that said, should you invest in Bitcoin? Again, that's a personal decision. Where is Bitcoin going to go? Michael Saylor says between 3 million and 13 million. One other famous investor, Tom Lee of Fundstrat, says that Bitcoin will be at 250,000 by the end of next year, 2025. And I believe he put a price target that potentially $120,000 by the end of this December. So these are just some of the experts out there. I am no expert, right? But I just wanted to share this information with you because you don't have to buy a whole coin. You don't have to drop all of your life savings, but you can spend $5 a week to start buying this asset, this digital currency known as Bitcoin, that has increased significantly in value from its inception and has some lofty price targets down the road. And if that could happen, right, it could provide some blessings for your family. So I wanted to share that with you today about Bitcoin. Hopefully you've learned something. And now it's time for Mr. Roku.
Let's take a look at Mr. Roku, who has been making a bit of a push here recently. You could see that just today, it hit a high of over $86, $86.48. And if we go back and look to the left, we could see that we're getting back into that gap territory, the gap down from February 15th of 2024. And we're starting to fill that gap. Now, we've got quite a ways to go. I did make a call today to my community saying, hey, this thing's going to hit $90 today. It didn't do that, but it is showing strength. It is pushing after just being beat up for such a long time. And it even gapped down on its last earnings, got some strength, fell again, and now it's pushing harder. And we could see that there's quite a bit of volume below it to hold it up if it does, in fact, drop again. But it's making a push, right? And you could see that we had this nice big bull candle here and really just moved sideways the following day, gapped up. Then we had an inside candle, pushed higher today, and we'll see how this candle closes, but Roku is showing some strength. And one of the things too is if we look down here, we could see that Roku is getting price raises in terms of what price it's expected to hit. But then also you're seeing headlines like this, where Roku is seen as a potential buyout target by Needham, saying that the trade desk potentially could purchase Roku. And so if that is the case, that is bullish for the stock. So let's keep monitoring it. And who knows, maybe next time we check in next week, we'll see Roku.
All right, so that's Mr. Roku. And that's going to do it for episode number 40 of the Traders Podcast. My gratitude and appreciation to you. Thank you for being a supporter of Courage Pays Better Than Fear Trading, of the Traders Podcast. I appreciate you guys so much. I've got 2 classes coming up here in January that I want to share with everyone. The first is the Beginners Trading Bootcamp, where I'm going to be giving away $1,000 for you to set up your first trading account, and also a 7-session coaching package one-on-one with me, valued at $10,000. They're free. All you have to do is participate in the event. I have that linked in the show notes. And then also for my intermediate traders or traders who've been doing this for a little bit of time, I'm going to be teaching my Candlestick Kung Fu class, which you're going to learn everything that you've ever wanted to know about candlesticks. And that's going to be a lot of fun. You will be a candlestick expert after that class. So that is linked in the show notes as well. I have a ton of new classes that I'll be teaching next year. Very excited about that. That scratches that teaching itch that I still have as a former educator. So if you're interested in those, check those out. And if you have any questions, put them in the comments. Hit me up via email, couragepaysbetter@gmail.com. And I will see you back here next week for episode number 41 of the Traders Podcast. Take care, everybody. Have a great day.